Welcome on to the next edition of Up. My name is Brad Nadelt, and today we have got a story and a half to share with you. As you know, for the last couple of months, we've been just sort of digging into and around the stories around the Comrades Marathon. And we've got a gentleman joining us today who I've known probably close on 15 years now, probably around 15 years, and consider him a great friend, but he has an incredible story to share. And you probably have seen him around at races, at events, running races, and it's a great pleasure to welcome onto the podcast today, Richard Laskey. Rich, I don't know if people will recognize you because you're not in a cow suit.
Brad, how are you, boy? Good to see you. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it. Yeah, I'm not in a cow suit, and I promise you won't believe it, I'm wearing long pants.
That is too funny. It's definitely cold in Joburg because I thought you'd be wearing two pairs of shorts, but you're wearing long pants. That is a change. But Rich, for peeps who sort of, and they probably recognize your face, but just to give someone a little bit of background of who you are right now. So I ran Comrades again this year for the first time in 12 years. And I was like just really privileged to be on the start line and happened to be right next to you. So got to sing the national anthem and Shosholoza and all of that good stuff. Standing next to the legend that is Richard Laskey, but you run Comrades and you do a whole bunch of other events in a cow suit. So people have probably seen you suffering, and that's just sort of what you do right now. But there's a whole long backstory to this that I wanted to dig into, and sort of your involvement with the cows and how it started and that sort of thing. Because the Chock cows obviously are one of the official Comrades Marathon charities. They do incredible work. I ran for Chock this year, which was pretty cool and very, very special as well. But I wanted to really go back to the origins and sort of where I met you, because your story is absolutely incredible and hopefully will inspire people who are going through things, because we all have struggles, and some people's struggles are harder than others and get dealt a hand that maybe is not what they wanted in life, but it's what they've had to deal with, and you've had to deal with a hell of a lot. And I wanted to dig into some of that today as well. But Rich, let me just ask you this question first before we go back. Why do you force yourself to suffer like you do? Because I mean, running Comrades is hard enough, but you do it in a blimmin' cow suit when it's hot, and that thing is like a flippin' sauna. Tell us why you do it.
So, dude, okay, so first of all, we've known each other a long time. It doesn't matter who you're with at the start of Comrades. It was a special one this year. The fact that we landed up just together, we've shared a lot over the years, as you alluded to earlier. But it was one of my favorite moments, was to be able to stand there with you, dude. Obviously, knowing what we've chatted about over the years, what you've been through, what I've been through. I mean, you're going to cry no matter what. Doesn't matter who you are. Like, I don't cry for anything, but flipping, there we bawled like babies singing Shosholoza and listening to Max and the Cock Crow and etc. So for me, one of my favorite starts ever. Absolute privilege was to be there. And then if we go back a while, Brad, I've always done races for charity, different charities. So it's always been something that I've done. I was fairly competitive when I first started sport. I took part in some stuff, and I was pretty serious, but didn't enjoy the serious side of things. I'm not the most serious dude, and I find a lot more purpose and a lot more value seeing somebody cross the line who you've helped finish in 11:59:59 as opposed to running a sub-7. The sub-7, I'm going to get one smile, which is mine. Running at 11:59:59 with some mates, and they all smiling, but you can't ever take it away. So for me, it's that's the reason why we do it. It's I'm a cantankerous old fart, and I'd prefer being in the company of others and being there and just feeding off them. So it's always been something that I've done is to help others try and believe a little bit more in themselves and their own abilities. Everyone's capable of it. They just need to be reminded of it. So I'm a little bit stubborn when it comes to things. And I have this. I won't give up. There's just no ways. It's not going to happen. It's not in my my makeup. So I'm a little bit stubborn. You asked about the car suit.
Before you get into the reason why the cow suit, tell me a little about what it's like, because we're going to get into why the cow suit in a mo. But what's it like running Comrades in that flipping thing? I can't actually wrap my head around it.
So everybody wants it at the start, especially when you're starting in Maritzburg, because it's nice and chilly. So everybody wants to jump into like a onesie with you. Some folks would be pretty keen if they jumped in, others definitely not. But yeah, it's warm. No one wants it at Drummond, and nobody wants it by the time you finished. So it's incredibly hot. It's by no means breathable. It's a normal, made out of material like a normal onesie that your kids are running around in like pajamas in. That's pretty much what it's made of. It's not breathable at all.
No, it is something else. Like I actually can't even wrap my head around running Comrades, and the chafe. I don't even want to know the chafe that you have to endure with that thing. It's just I don't think there's enough Vaseline on the Comrades route to stop that thing.
So yeah, I'm very fortunate. I don't chafe, so I'm that's quite a bonus. I don't chafe. I do put plasters over my nipples, but actually I don't chafe. So I don't use Vaseline. I don't use any of the other products. So I'm very lucky there. But it does get warm. Maybe I must just touch on the reason why, because people say to us, why don't you make it breathable and lycra and light? I mean, you run in the cow kit, so we have cow kits available, which is, this year was the most we've ever had, and it was an incredible thing because it not at any point in time on the entire route. And as we know, we're not bad runners. We just maximize our entry. That's why we take so long to finish. We're superb runners. We want to make sure that we use every cent of that entry fee. So that's why we take so long. But it's, the thing about it is this year was so great to see so many different people in the cow kit and see the awareness that it's created. And obviously we're very fortunate. I'm a BD is always going to be there. It always was the original one. And then you're allowed an allocation of years, and then it comes to the end and they bring in new charities. So they've allowed us to continue, and I think it's for the simple reason that year upon year we the biggest fundraiser. We got the final numbers last week. There's a check handover tomorrow, I think. So I think we were just shy of, and I'll be chastised for getting the number wrong, but I think about 2.7 million for this year's run. So that's 2.7 million, which is going a long way to help other people. We're fortunate. We've got medical aids in that, but it looks after people who don't have that. So the reason that it stays in a woolen cow suit is it needs to be hard. It needs to be tough. These little kids that are going through this fight, doesn't matter how long it is, whether they're going to remission or not, they've got to have ports put in, they've got to have drips put in, their hair falls out, they can't go outside and play with their kids. So they go through really tough times. So their life is not easy. I've got to endure 12 hours of running in this cow suit. It's tiny in comparison to what they go through. So that's the reason why we leave the cow suit. As hard as it is, it needs to be tough. It needs to be a remembrance of why we do it. So it is obviously the why, and it's the reason that it mustn't be easy, because if we think we're having a bit of a tough time, imagine that little kid who's got to go and have another port come in, or they get their results and they were in remission and now it's back. So it's a reminder all the time that this is not about us. We're doing it because people have supported us. People have paid good money to support us. Like their salaries, they've given us a portion of what they earn for us to be able to do good. So that's why it's the cow suit, and that's why it's not supposed to be easy.
Yeah, Rich, I want to take a step back because I think this story starts a long time ago where you are now, and I'm going to touch on where I first met you and how you first came across my radar. And then obviously lots has happened since then. But it actually starts before you first came on my radar, where you got involved. Obviously, the Chock Cows were formed up, and you've been very involved all along. But where you first came on my radar, you guys were raising funds. And I used to work for a radio station in Johannesburg. It's still going, 94.7, or it's 947 now. It used to be called 94.7 Highveld Stereo. And every single year, Jeremy Mansfield was the breakfast jock at the time. And every single year, we used to do a Christmas carols event at the Dome in Northgate before they started selling cars out of it. And in the build-up to that, on this, I think it was the second week of December, we used to do wishes. So Jeremy and his team, people used to submit wishes, people who needed whatever it was. Maybe it was a little bit of extra money to buy school clothes for their kids, but there were some big wishes that used to come through. And when you first came on to my radar, every year at that Christmas carols, they used to give away the big one, like grant the big wish. And I can't even remember the details of why you were told you were going. I think you guys were looking for someone else. You had put in a wish for someone else, and it turned out that wish, Tishan, I'm getting quite emotional talking about it, was for you and your family. And your wife at the time was fighting a battle against cancer. So you were doing all this stuff for Chalk, for kids who are struggling. But meantime, you guys were in the thick of it. Tell us a little bit about what was going on at that time in your life.
Yeah, so I think, Brady, if I go back, so we started the cows November 2008. And as we thought it was going to be just a once-off, and that was it. So I'd actually got involved with Jeremy and the old Rude Awakening 2 years previous to that, when you had Paul Rotherham on and he was Pig. And they wanted Little Red Riding Hood and Pig, and then they wanted a Big Bad Wolf. So I volunteered to be the Big Bad Wolf, and I actually rode in a wolf suit with a massive big head. And about 10 k's in, the tongue came loose, and you looked through the mouth, and the tongue came loose. I couldn't see where I was going for the whole thing. So that was how I first got into Rude Awakening, and obviously started a bit of a relationship with Joffers back then, and all the rest. And then we started the cows. So we used that introduction that we'd already had to get onto the station, and that was how we started the cows. So we had been doing the cows for a year. So November 2008, and then August 6, 2009, my wife was diagnosed. So they'd never seen it in South Africa. So it was quite a major thing. It was called adrenal cortical carcinoma. Very long story short, we had to fly Professor Archer, Leanne Manus from ETV, her brother, Professor Manus. He heads up a transplant unit in Newcastle, so he flew Archer. And Mel had to, the op had never been done. So basically she had to write letters to the kids. So the kids at that time were 7, 5, and 1. So she had to say goodbye to us, to her family, to everything, because they didn't know what would happen. Anyway, long story, they did it. It was successful. She had to agree to go to chemo and et cetera. So she did go to chemo, and we continued to doing the cows, etc. And unfortunately, it came back in a major way, and it spread and it went everywhere. And the long story is that she was basically spending 20 days a month in high care. And we continued to do the fundraising. Nobody really knew what we were going through in terms of our financial stuff. But we ended up having to sell our townhouses, 2 of our townhouses, to try and fund it, because it was just, we got to a point where we were paying 20% of the funds. So a Discovery was magic, but I mean, she was medically boarded, and Momentum gave us her policy paid out. That was 1.6 million, and it was in our account for 40 minutes, and it was paid straight to Discovery. That was like, so the amounts that we owed were crazy. I got to the carols by candlelight. They told me a blatant lie. I'd convinced her we must go on holiday. So I imagine it had taken me so long to tell her to stop chemo. We pulled into Harry Smith. You'll know LB Riccardi. So LB phoned me and he said, "Where are you?" And I said, "I'm pulling into Harry Smith." And he said, "I need you to turn around and come back." And I was like, "No, dude, like, you don't understand. I've just convinced Mel after all this time to stop chemo and go on holiday for a week with the kids, because we don't." Anyway, he said, "Listen, trust me, I need you to get back here. I don't care what you tell her, but you've got to get back here." So we drove into Harry Smith. We had breakfast like everybody does at Wimpy, turned around, and I went the other way. And my kids didn't talk to me. Mel didn't talk to me. We had to go back. And the Wednesday night we went to the Dome, and under false pretenses again, because we had no clue. And then we were told to come backstage and talk to the guys. And we went backstage. And then, we were called out to come and receive the check from SPAR. So it was the takings for the night, and SPAR donated 250,000 to Mel's medical expenses. But Jeremy said to me there was one proviso, and that was that I wasn't allowed to give it to the cars. It had to be used for our medical bills. So yeah, that was it. And obviously, crazy enough is Parky. He came and did the TV interview at our house, and that was on the Christmas wish list on DSTV. And now all these years later, I work with him on other platforms. So amazing how it all turned. So yeah, unfortunately she lost to battle. It's almost 15 years. 3 days before she turned 37, 12th of October, she passed away. But yeah, it's an amazing thing, because for a year I knew nothing about cancer. And for a year although it was kids' cancer, I spent understanding what it was and understanding what chemo was. So yeah, it's the girls were 8, 6, and 2 when she disappeared, and went and took early retirement. But it's Brad, I think you also know, dude, I wasn't the most honorable husband and partner and dad. So everybody goes, oh, you're such a hero. You did this fantastic job bringing up 3 kids. The truth is I didn't. I was a cuck dad, cuck father, cuck partner, everything. I had a big drinking and drug problem. So yeah, I wasn't great at all, dude. I used to go and I drove the kids drunk every day without fail. There was never a day I wasn't drunk. I would go home to make dinner, do homework, make lunch boxes, put them to bed, and then I'd go out and get home at like 5, and I'd have my daughter at the stairs going like, is this the time to come home? So yeah, and the truth be told, like Tanika is the one who was the great one. She stepped up, and my sister and brother-in-law. If it wasn't for them. And I think that's also some lessons we take. There's some, you sit there and you go like, geez, why did she go? Why not me? But there's reasons for it. There's a whole lot of stuff that we've been able to implement, which maybe she wouldn't have been able to do if it was me that was gone. And you learn a lot about resilience, and you learn a lot about what you can give back, and why you go through these things, so you're able to talk to people and help them in similar situations. So the reason is that I was a reprobate, but yeah, there's a lot of good stuff that's come from it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's massive good has come from it. But Rich, I'm keen to talk a little bit about your addiction as well, and sort of how you've had to fight those demons, and how you've turned things around, and you've been clean. I don't know how many days it is now, but you've been clean for a good few years, and it's just amazing. I mean, you say that people say you've done such a great job with your girls. I mean, even with everything that was going on, I agree. I'm one of those people that think you've done an amazing job, and none of us are perfect. We all have issues, and we all have demons to fight. So yeah, I mean, your girls are amazing. You've got an amazing partner now, and yeah, I think what you've done over the years is incredible, and I think it can help a lot of people. So talk to me a little bit about sort of the addiction and what you've had to do to overcome that. If you're over 50 and want to recover from sessions faster, run pain and injury-free, and improve your endurance, then be sure to join Lindsay and I for our upcoming Faster Beyond 50 Masterclass. In it, we'll show you how we helped a 70-year-old run a 47-minute, 18-second 10K, and how you can take those exact same principles and apply them in your training. Simply scan the QR code that's on screen right now, or click on the link in the description below to save your seat in the training now. We look forward to seeing you there.
So I think, Brad, people don't realize, people sit there and they go, you're an addict, and you've got a problem, you the problem. What people don't realize is that addiction is a disease. You don't, cancer's prevalent in your place. When your mom was diagnosed, you weren't angry at your mom. But if you're a drug addict or a alcoholic, you're angry at them. It's the same. If you're not angry at your mom, you shouldn't be angry at the addict, because it is a disease. That's what it is, and people don't realize that. It's something which is you struggle with it. You need to. I had 2 interventions where they were going to take my kids away, and not even that changed it. So that's how powerful addiction is. Is that I was like, okay, cool, take my kids. I'll just I'll go to the pub. That's pretty much the way I behaved. So unless. There was a turning point, and it was that's it. And I made up my own mind. Cool, this is it. I can't carry on like this anymore, and I need to stop my nonsense. Do I miss it? Or are you joking? Of course I miss it. I miss getting hammered with the oaks. I miss having the tequilas and the single malt whiskeys and a million beers. But I just know I can't do it. So it's not a case of we got a full bar at home. I cook with alcohol. I love cooking. You know what I'm like. So it's there all the time. It's around me, but I know my mind's made up, and I know I can't touch it. So I think it's in a lot of ways it's been really cool because there's a couple of things that I do. So one of the groups is called I've Got You. So that's guys who are struggling with addictions, suicide, depression, anxiety, doesn't matter, whatever it is, alcohol, drugs, anything. And they've got to, so individually people send me a word for the day and we manifest that word. And basically if it's negative, we try and turn it into a positive. So I've got hundreds of people on that work, that send me words every day and we work through that. So that's called I've Got You. And that's just something which is, it's just basically helping making people realize there's someone out there who's going through some tough times who can resonate. I'm not saying that psychologists and psychiatrists don't work, but they don't work for me. And there's a lot of people like me that they don't resonate with. They want people who have been through things, it's tangible. They felt it. They've been at the bottom. And I think that's what makes it special is that, you realize where you were and you don't actually realize what the full potential is and the impact that you can make around others. Mm. So I think it's been such a cool thing. It's such a cool journey to be able to chat about it, to talk about it. We taught it, cowboys don't cry, tough. You got to be this macho sort of like, or we've got to be completely false. Like, we a million filters on your phone and you don't even know what you look like by the time you post the photo. So I think it's being fallible, it's being honest, and it's amazing now because I have a really cool relationship with my kids. Funny enough, most of my mates' wives talk to me again, so I'm allowed to go back into those circles because I'm not dragging their husbands out till all hours of the morning. But I think there's a lot of stuff that works. There's another thing we do which is dads, and that's dads assisting dads. And that's guys who've lost their partners and they just, you'd normally come home and bounce that off your partner. Now your partner's no longer there. What do you do? So it's not a professional thing. It's just real life circumstances. So you come home, you've had a cuck day, kid got a cuck report. What do I do? Someone goes, okay, well, I tried this. Don't do that because it backfired badly. Try this. And it's guys bouncing ideas off each other. So that's, and it's things like that. Things like this, it's things like, different, chatting to Brent, different podcasts. It's just being able to do what you do and try and inspire others to be a better version of themselves. And I think it's, in a way, it's, so I don't regret anything I did, not a single solitary thing. I don't regret anything. There's a lot of things I might not be proud of, but I don't regret it because it's got me to where I am today. And again, it's a platform now that we're lucky enough to have an audience with what we do, where we are able to impact on others in a positive manner.
Yeah, Rich, and I think that's such a good point you make there, because often, and it's around lots of things, but particularly around addiction, I think there's a lot of shame that's out there around addiction that people almost want to forget it, that was a chapter in their lives. And it's like, you know what, I've moved on, I'm clean now, but I don't really want to bring that out into the light. And one thing I love about you, and it's not just with the addiction, like you are super open about it, but even like, I mean, you've now got, as I said, you've now got a new partner, the girls are growing up, but you make such an effort to celebrate all parts of your life. So like when it's Mel's birthday, as an example, you celebrate that as if she would be here. I just love that about what you do. But talk to me, because it's funny. The last time I actually did like a formal interview with you like this, I was trying to think about when it was, and you were still quite guarded. Like you weren't that open about it. You were like 1 or 2 word answers, and like today I can't get you to shut up, which is a good thing. You are just so much.
Cut it short.
No, which I think is amazing. You've obviously had to work through a lot of this stuff, and you've come to terms with the fact, like as you said, you wouldn't change anything. You do regret lots of things, and you did make mistakes, and you're man enough to own up to that. But you are a lot more accepting of yourself, which I'm loving. I think that is probably, I don't know, you've had to work hard on that, I'm sure.
Yeah, so Brad, I think that's the important part. There's so many things that I always talk about, and it's Chris Nitchich, Chris is obviously the first Down syndrome guy to do a full Ironman, and his whole Ironman motto is his charity is 1% better, and it's, can I be 1% better today than I was yesterday? And 1% is, in a bigger scheme of things, is absolutely nothing. But if you're 1% better today than you were every day for 365 days, imagine the difference that you would make. And I think that's the other thing is when people say, oh, but you only live once, and that's like a crock of shit, dude. You live every day, you die once. So every morning when you wake up, you've got an opportunity to be better than you were yesterday. And if you don't do it, when you go to bed tonight, you can have a bad day, etc. But you also, a lot of people didn't wake up this morning. So as bad as your day was, there's a lot of people who've had a worse day than you have. And I think it's, South Africans as a whole, we're resilient. And obviously last weekend was a disaster for us, but we'll bounce back this weekend. And, we're so quick to make remarks and all the rest of it. But it's also, we live in a time where it's all, we're so self-absorbed. And we look at, especially at schools and that type of thing. So I've got a big passion for trying to help like young boys. That especially in our country where there's no father figures. I mean, we struggle this country where the majority of our population grows up without a father figure. And that to me it's a massive problem. I mention it often, is that I have this gripe with the government and the 16 days of activism, because so what, for 349 days you could beat women up, and then we suddenly celebrate 16 days of activism, and we spend all this money on these campaigns, etc., etc. Mandela Day, so one day we've got to do 67 minutes for Mandela Day. Like, really? What about the rest of the time? If we could just take it and take some of that positivity every day and spread it out over the year, how much better would it be? And it's easy again to just point fingers and to say, oh, this or that. But if you're not going to make a difference in your own capacity, then you've got no right to be complaining. You can't emigrate and then say how shit South Africa is, but then when you go to Eden Park and you're putting on a Springbok jersey because they're beating the Kiwis, that's not acceptable. If you've chosen to move there, well, then put the All Black shirts on. It's like, that's the way I look at it. It's just, if you're here, you stay here and you support your country and you support the people around it. And I think we've got such massive potential. We just, we sit with a problem where it's impoverished and all the rest of it. But again, in our own little circles, we can make a difference, as cliched as it is. And we can. Things like this is a great thing. I mean, we go back for over so many years, and no one would ever have thought that from those rude awakening days that we'd be landing up working in a similar environment, in a business environment.
In a totally different sort of, I mean, it's like so weird.
It is crazy. But again, you're exactly where you're meant to be right here, right now. And if you hadn't have gone through all of this stuff, if your mom hadn't have gone through what she went through, Chana, we would never have been as close as we are. We would never have shared that packet of crisps going up wherever we were, some hill, I don't know even where it was, probably near Pound Town or something when we were going on the run. You were still running for Pink Drive that year. So, I mean, I think it's, you just try and instill things with, like, everybody around you in your work environments and anything that you do, you've got this opportunity to make a person's day better. Just flip and do it. And as tough as life is, the longer, for me, and I always say this to my girls, is like the longer time that you spend being a caterpillar, the more beautiful the moment is when you become the butterfly. So, like, for me, that's what it's about. Is like trying to do the hard yards, do the graft, stay a caterpillar for as long as possible. There's a reason it's got so many legs and it goes slowly, because that flipper needs to concentrate on what it's doing. Because when it's, when you hit that butterfly time, it's beautiful. You check everything from an aerial point of view, and that's, and that's what I just try and let the kids remember, and anyone that we come into contact with is remind them about that. If we go back to the start of the cows, and you think of Grant and Karen, and they lost little Jess at 20 months. Now you think about losing your daughter. So what did she turn? She turned 17, 18 last week, right?
Yeah.
I think she turned 17 or 18. What did Gracie turn last week?
Yeah, 17.
17. So imagine losing at 20 months. Imagine you lost her. Now, those parents had an opportunity to go, woe is me, or make a difference. That's the reason we started the cars. It wasn't us. I'd done races for charities, different charities before that. So I was always going to do that. But those parents lost someone. They then had another daughter, and they lost that daughter as well to cancer. So the impact that they've had has been so incredible. And, on that subject, we had Grant's memorial, the dad. Grant passed away, and his memorial was on Friday last week. But what they've gone through has created such a movement of change. By November, we're going to hit 60 million that we've raised. So think of what that's had an impact on so many thousands of lives. So it all resulted from little Jess passing away. And that's a beautiful moment. It's not and I think that's the other thing is grief. Grief is hard, but it's how you interpret grief and what you do with it that makes it count. I had a long think about it when I made a post about Grant the other day, and he's taught me so much, and Karen's taught me so much in how to embrace what your situation is, and how you embrace grief, and how you embrace tragedy, and addiction and abuse and whatever it may be. It's you've got a choice on how you deal with it. And I mean, a guy like Ricky Gervais, I love that oak. Like he just China, take me as I am. And that's what I love about him. It's just, he's here, he says what he does what he, and that's the thing. I really don't care about what anybody thinks about me. And I'm never going to change. This is who I am. And I want to be here, and I want to make a difference. And I want to try and impact as many people as possible whilst we're still here.
Yeah, Rich, I love that. And I think also, just where you're talking about making a difference in your sphere, I want to encourage people, it doesn't have to be this massive thing, like starting an organization like Chalk, as an example. It could just be opening a door for someone, like little things, and around the charity side of things, and bringing it back to Comrades. It might just be raising 200 Rand for one of the charities, like just doing something small. Because if each one of us, and we talk about this often on this podcast, if each one of us just do something small, it makes a massive, massive difference. It doesn't have to be this massive, groundbreaking thing. And I think a lot of people fall into the trap of going, what, I want to do something, but what am I going to do? I'm just this little person in the middle of nowhere. What impact can I have? And then they don't do anything. Whereas if it's just a case of, what, I'm going to make little ripple. We don't know what that ripple's the impact that ripple's going to have. But it's just going to, I'm going to do it because it's the right thing to do. And I just want to encourage people to do that. Rich, I wanted to just talk a little bit about Chalk as well as an organization, because one thing I think I think Chalk is probably one of the better charities that do this, is they talk about what they do and the impact that they have. And I think one of the things that the other charities at Comrades can get better at is articulating where the money actually goes to and the impact that it has. So I obviously have been around what you guys do at Chalk for a long, long time. This was actually the first time that I've raised money for Chalk was at Comrades this year. But I literally live a stone's throw. There's a Chalk house in the suburb that I live in Cape Town, in Plumstead. And I know what that house is for, and the impact that it has on families where kids are being treated for cancer at the Red Cross Children's Hospital in Cape Town. So tell us a little bit about sort of what Chalk does and where that money goes to and the impact that it has.
So it is very diverse. So what happens is Chalk is where all our funding goes to. So the cars, we get all the cash in. Each province within Chalk will send us a wish list for the following year. So we look at what each house got, what each province got last year, what the most urgent is in terms of structure, whatever they need, and who got what last year. And then, as I said, what the most urgent is, we look at that, tally it up, and that's our target for the following year. So every province is a little bit different. So if they need a house, so what a house does is it houses a parent or a relative of the child. So the child will be in hospital going through the treatment, and obviously the child remains most times in the hospital, but then the parent or the sibling or the relative will come back to the house. So we will transport that parent to and from, and we will feed them for the duration of the stay. So if it's
if I can just jump in there, Rich, as well, like one of the reasons these houses are set up is because kids get treated like from outlying areas, and I'll use Cape Town as an example. They might be treated at the Red Cross Children's Hospital, and they might live in like outside Swellendam and like in a rural community, and for their family to make the trek to Cape Town to see that child in hospital. I mean, it's traumatic being in hospital as a child anyway, but then having to do it without anybody there with you, I mean, it's frightening. So having the Choc House allows someone to stay in close vicinity to the hospital so that it's not this major mission to get to see this child in hospital.
So I think number one is it's the support of being close to your child. Number two is the costs. You know, as you said, you stay so far away from it, they don't have their own transport. So they would be needing to check taxis in and out, buses in and out. So that's what we alleviate. So it's number one, it's a financial burden that we alleviate. Number two is it's obviously a close proximity to being with that person. So that happens during the kids' stay. The other thing that they do is we do, like if they need a new hospital wing, and we'll go and redo the wing, and we'll put in, do the murals, we'll do whatever equipment they need, we'll fund all of that. Transport, so the transport that we take the kids to and from, and if they go on excursions, then we'll get Toyota Quantums, we'll brand those, and those you'll see, those are the moving billboards that we use, and that's transporting them to and from. The big part about the thing that we also do is obviously the psychosocial workers. So that's a massive part about it. So if you think about it, we've got medical aid, you go to the counseling, your kid's been diagnosed, parents need counseling, your sisters or siblings, whatever it may be, they all need counseling, kid passes away, you need counseling. These folks don't have that. They don't have access to that. It's the case of, okay, sorry, kid's got a terminal disease, going to die. Sorry, tough. Cheers, see you later. Kid died, okay, sorry, bury you. That's pretty much what the majority of our public of our country goes through. So what we do with these psychosocial workers is they go into the townships, and when the kids are diagnosed, they counsel the families, they counsel the siblings, they counsel the relatives. So when we budget for something like that, we don't budget just for the person. We budget for a vehicle, we budget for the fuel, and we budget for a salary for the year. So depending on which region it is. So that's how the homework is that goes into it when it comes to something like that. So we're not just supplying a staff worker. It's not a psychosocial worker is not going to help if they don't have transport and fuel to get there. So those are the type of things where we try and make it. We work closely with Choc, and Choc guides us with what they need. Our job, honestly, I mean, I think you know the rules of the cars. It's planning is for people that don't know, training is for sissies, and do now and ask for forgiveness. So those are our three rules. So it's always difficult when a new CEO comes into Choc, because they come in, and I mean, like Headley's come in now from Smile Foundation. He's been there a couple of years, and it is a bit of an eye opener, because it's like, we're a big NPO, we're a proper organization, we've got to abide by rules, and we go like, Tana, we don't do rules. Number one, we do not do rules. Don't ask us for rules, they're not going to happen. So I think that's why the cows have worked, is it's still the same core group of guys that started it that are still here, well, bar Grant. But it's still the same group of people. And our core focus is to just have fun while making a difference. And I think that's the reason why it's worked. It's just there's no red tape. It's you're doing this because you love it and you're able to make a difference.
Yeah, I always used to laugh when I was still working for 94.7, and we obviously used to do the ride Joburg, and I always used to laugh at the Choc guys, because you used to, like, the more money you raised, the more they made you suffer on race day. So it was just like, it wasn't like if you raised more, you got it a bit easier on race day. Like the more money you raised, and the goal was to do that thing on an ice cream bicycle, which is like super hard, which I absolutely loved about the organization. Rich, and then I'm keen to talk a little bit about your Comrades experience and why Comrades for you personally outside of Choc. I mean, there's lots of races to do and that sort of thing. And you were joking about that, like, you were okay athlete, but you much prefer having like more time on the road. You're actually, I mean, you play it down. If you actually had to train, I know you're saying training's for sissies, but if you actually had to train, you're a pretty decent athlete. I mean, you've got some serious ability. I mean, I don't know if you can remember, like, what is your best Comrades time back in the day?
No, I've never ever. That's one race I've never run hard. Never ever.
What's your marathon PB? Like your best marathon?
2:47.
There you go. So you're a very good athlete. There's no two ways about it, and you like hanging out and suffering at the back with the rest of us. But why Comrades, Rich? What makes Comrades so special?
So Comrades was back in the day was to get out of the army for a day or two. There was the one reason. I was running for defense at the time. So yeah, that was how it started. My dad had always been running the old Two Oceans route back in the day when it finished at Villages. So my dad and Chet were very good friends. My dad used to play rugby at Villages, and they lived. So my grandparents' house was the third last house before you hit the grass at Villages on the old route. So running's always been in the family, and from as long as I can remember, we would go and watch my dad, and then it just became like in my blood. So I was going to continue to do it. So yeah, that's I've been running for long. I'm not like I said, I'm not the record one, so they're not gonna love this. There's a special person who won't love this part, but it doesn't. Long before I started what I'm doing now, let me just reiterate that I would run in other people's numbers. I would run without chips. So I've run officially. I think they've got me down as officially 12. Comrades, and I've got 22 medals. So 22 medals, 22 scrolls, and 22 badges. But they've only got me down as 12 because, as I say, I've run in. The 1 year Alan Smith was still the New Balance brand manager, and on the Friday he gave me a pair of the New Balance shoes that had the route on it. Yeah. So he gave me those on the Friday, and I ran in them on the Sunday. So. Yeah, it's not. And my mileage is never the greatest either. I'm not big on the mileage thing.
No, you're not, Rich. Like, I'm not even going to go into the training, but because I know, there was a year, and I think this might have still been while you were drinking. So I think this might have been alcohol fueled. But I remember that you had run 3 races that year, and you hadn't trained for any of them. And the first race you ran that year was the marathon you had to run to qualify to run Comrades. The second race you ran that year was Two Oceans. And then the third race you ran was Comrades. That was the 3 runs you had done that year. And it was all in the
It was a sum total.
Yeah, pretty much. But it's not advisable. As a coaching business here at Coach
Barry, no. So it's the same way as I live my life. It says I say, don't not as I do.
Yeah, absolutely. Rich, again, I just loved sharing that moment with you. I'll make sure that we share the photo on this broadcast as well that we took. It was, how cool was it being like so close to the start banner at Comrades this year? It was, like I got to see the mayor, which is quite cool.
Yeah, like I said, it's an incredible thing because there was a special memory. The year before last, I moved into my pen. And as I got in there was a lady that was, she said to me, this is what you do, you run for the cows. I said, yeah. And then she told me that her daughter was going through chemo. So like then what I do is I write the names on my hands. So I write the names of people we've lost and the people that we are fighting, and then I write them in permanent marker on my hands, and I get my mates to send me pictures of their hands with people's names on. And then when I get to that woe is me time, which happens a few times, you pull it out and you read it and you remember this is not for you, it's for them. And that lady that I met on that start, her daughter was going through chemo. And we shared a special moment in a tier or 7, and it was an amazing thing. And then I went to Akani Simbini's foundation for a dinner for the launch, and Calvin Watt from Super Sport Schools was there chatting to him and his family. Anyway, this other lady comes, she says, you were at Comrades last year with me at the start. And she said, I recognize your voice straight away. She said, this is, and her daughter was with us, and she rang the bell that day for her last chemo session. And Akani gave her an award. They've known Akani for a good few years, and Akani gave her an award that night for finishing her chemo treatments. And it's like, dude, it's moments like that are so special because the entire lead up to it this moment would never have happened if all that other stuff hadn't transpired. And I mean, that's what's so beautiful about it. It's to be able to have moments like that mean so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't, I mean, as much as you had the struggle, I mean, two of the funniest moments I've had with you at events was one, that Comrades, where you were talking about the chips. I was eating chips, you were having a beer, I might add. So that was also part of it in the middle of Comrades. But I did an Ironman. I don't know what year it was, but I remember doing an Ironman in Port Elizabeth in Quebec, and you were on the side of the road supporting. You had commandeered a traffic cone. You were in a cow suit and you were supporting everyone out there. And by the time I was so slow, by the time I'd come round on one of the laps of the run, I think you guys were on your second braai of the day already. And you were many, many drinks in. And I got endless abuse on every single lap that I went past there with Richard Laskey shouting at me through a traffic cone. So still one of the funniest moments ever. And then, Rich, I also just wanted to touch on, we haven't even mentioned it too, but you don't just sort of live running, and this is what you do for a living too. I mean, on your shirt there's a Modern Athlete sort of emblem, but you're one of the partners of Modern Athlete, which is South Africa's largest running magazine. So you live, eat, and breathe running in this country. How are things going at Modern Athlete?
Yeah, it's a booming time. I think we're lucky. It's I think after COVID, everything was so bad and everything's come back full swing. Calendar's obviously coming out of hibernation now, so September starts getting crazy again. And then, so there's a few things coming up, obviously August, September, October, November, then goes quiet again December. And then, the Comrades chaos starts. I mean, there's obviously Cape Town Marathon's coming up as well, Soweto, city to city. So, it's busy. So there's a lot of things happening. We've got a team going to Tokyo for World Champs. Rox is going to Tokyo. So we played Ching Chong Cha and she got it. So she's off to Tokyo. So that should be good. So we'll get some nice content coming through from there. And I think it's growing. I mean, I'm loving, to be honest, and it's probably going to not be the right thing to say for some of the purists, but I'm loving the social running crews. I'm loving the fact that they're going against the grain, and it's, they don't want annual things, and they don't want this, and they don't want bricks and mortar and structure. They don't want structure. I'm pretty similar. I'm like this 50-year-old living in this 50-whatever-year-old living in this like 20-year-old body thing that I think that I'm actually trying to do. But I love the vibe on the youngsters. They're growing the sport at such a rate, and I think that's where we need to be focusing on. Our age is gone. We're not the 50-year-old plus we're no longer important. You can offer that advice, but it's not heeded. They're number one, and it's not wanted. So I'm loving what the social crews are doing. I think it's important, and I think it's growing the sport at such a rapid rate, and I think it's beautiful. Social media has been a huge punt for it, and we're embracing it. So we love dealing with the social running crews.
Yeah, Rich, I'm going to say it because this is a subliminal message to some organizations in the South African, but a rising tide lifts all ships. Like, we're not in competition with anyone. Like, we want this industry to grow because when it grows, we all benefit. So you and I both deal with lots of people and races and organizations. And for many of them, there's this real closed mindset that it's mine. That's not how it works, people. Like, we need to build these things for your benefits.
And I think that's spot on, dude. I mean, we've got two of our top competitors. I mean, and they are. So they Runners World and Run Mag. And I absolutely, I read it. Competition's healthy. There's enough place in the sun for everybody. And that's exactly what it is. We're supposed to be empowering this stuff, not knocking each other down. So for me, dude, support them. And at the end of the day, we've all got a job to do. And if a client goes with someone else, well, so be it. It's not the end of the world. At the end of the day, the sport's growing, and that's what counts.
Yep, exactly. Richard Laskey, as always, thank you so much for your time. Much appreciated. Love you, brother. And keep fighting the good fight. You're doing an amazing job. And don't ever change, dude. We love you. Look forward to sharing.
I can't change now. Too old for that. I love you too. Just love to the family. That side. Always good to catch up. Thanks for having me.